I've never addressed a group apart from our office group together. So bear with us. We'll have our ups and downs. But today, we thought we'll take you through some aspects of our journey. We've had a very, trying to find the right word, very interesting journey for multiple reasons. And I'm sure a lot of you have read about us in the papers as well for wrong reasons. But trust me, the business has been very interesting, and the last 6 years have been like a roller coaster ride. Could not ask for anything different.
Thanks, Radhika. Thanks, guys, for being here. Really, I mean, itna sara gyan. I don't know how we can add to this, but what we will try to do to the best of our ability is tell you our story. I think there's nothing better than a story. And we decided that because we are two co-founders, we can actually do a fireside chat amongst ourselves. You know, I'll ask her questions, she'll answer those questions.
I think it was, in many ways, I also call myself an accidental entrepreneur. My husband always wanted to start something, and I was very happy to hear all his ideas, and retail and shop clothes seemed to be something that was weighing on his mind for a while. I think the basic concept around that was that in any country, offline retail and online retail have to resemble each other. And in India, that wasn't true. Flipkart looked more like a mall than the bazaars where most of us shop, and the gullies that we go to, the fashion street in Mumbai and Sarojini Nagar in Delhi, and that's what we wanted to start. And for me, it was very exciting because it had all the components of consumer, retail, merchants, consumer behavior, everything that I was passionate about. And that's the story of Shop Clothes for me. Sanjay, what's your story of Shop Clothes?
The question was, tell us about your background. You answered my second question also and the third question also.
Good.
That's fine.
So, rule number 1 as an entrepreneur, preempt the questions and answer them all together.
So my second question was, how did Shop Clothes start? And I think you've answered that. I think
one of the things that we should point out over here is that a team typically starts a company, but the reasons why they start it is completely different. I gave you my point of view on Shop Clothes. What was yours?
A good point. So actually, she's right. When a team comes together, they have different reasons why you want to start something. I was with eBay for several years, like 7-8 years in the US, and was extremely frustrated with how I'm on camera. I was extremely frustrated with how eBay was operating itself in India. I thought India was a massive opportunity. In many ways, I believe if we were lucky, I think you guys are much luckier because there's so much opportunity coming in front of us. You know, when I was growing up, it was only क्या लिया लड़के ने science लिया कि commerce लिया arts लिया. I think that was the only two options we had, science and arts. But today, you know, when I see my kids, just the world is completely opening up to them in many different ways. So anyways, my frustration with eBay was that India was such a huge opportunity, and somehow the eBay mothership in the US was not seeing it that way. I was in the valley for about 15 odd years, about 7-8 years in eBay. At one point decided we all have met, you know, our co-founders met, and we decided, at least I decided that, you know, this India is the place where I want to do this. I think I can do it better than, faster than, cheaper than eBay. And here we are.
I think that's been part of our mantra as well when we run Shop Clothes. You know, can we do something faster, better, and cheaper than another person? When we landed in India from the US to start Shop Clothes, the entire airport, guys, was branded Snapdeal. There were those runners all around that said Snapdeal. And when we got our first term sheet, in fact, there was a news article that came out that Amazon's going to enter India, and our term sheet, which was from a top VC in the US, got withdrawn primarily because of that. They said, why are you going to go start e-commerce in India? And this is 2011, early 2011, when e-commerce was really not even mainstream. And it was, from my point of view, it was overwhelming. It was intimidating because there were players in the market who were trying to do, or at least players who had who were very well entrenched in the market, and they were doing e-commerce in some ways the way we wanted to do it, but in many ways, very, very differently from where we wanted to do it as well.
So Radhika, can you tell us a little bit more about how is Shopify different from? This question is going to come. I'm going to preempt it. How is it different from Amazon and Flipkart? There's another Me Too trying to be e-commerce company.
So let's put things in perspective. Flipkart has raised. Does anybody know you guys know how much money Flipkart has raised? $3.2 billion. Snapdeal, any guesses? 1.9 billion, right. We've raised $190 million. We are about 1/5 the size of Flipkart and about 30% smaller than Snapdeal. So everything that we've done had to be differentiated from the way the others were doing it, because they were spending about 10x the amount of money we were spending to get the same consumer, to get the same order. And I think multiple people spoke to you about unit economics. They spoke to you about having a very efficient model. For us, when we started, lowering the customer cost of acquisition was very, very important. Even before that, when we were working on the business model, I think it was very, very critical for us that the business model is very differentiated from what the others were doing. And today, if you look at our first pitch deck and if you look at our pitch deck today, the differentiation continues to be very clear. We differentiated on 3 factors. The consumer that we are targeting, tier 2, tier 3 consumer, completely different, and now tier 3 and tier 4 consumer. So this is the customer who is sitting out of Etawah. This is the customer who is sitting out of Bharuch. This is the customer who's sitting out of the outskirts of Belgaum. So mass market, that's the consumer we are targeting. The categories that we play in, completely unstructured categories. So categories such as lifestyle. Fashion is a very large category for us, but fashion is very different from what it is for Myntra and Jabong. And finally, the merchants who are providing the selection on the platform. We went in only for the micro, small, and medium enterprises. These are the merchants who came on the platform to sell for us. So while it's great for me to sit here and point out the differentiation, and this is how we are going to build out the business, what Sanjay and the product team had to do was actually build out a product in a way that was completely catered to all these 3 segments, because the way you sell unstructured categories has to be different from the way you sell structured categories. How you target customers who are coming online for the first time, how you target merchants that come online for the
just coming back to the topic about a late stage. There's always going to be this tussle in our minds, when you start an organization, it all starts small, and then you don't have the right product sometimes. I know, there's a lot of wisdom here, and sometimes, I will contradict some of the things that have already been said, but I think that is okay, because when we are talking about something as fuzzy as entrepreneurship, there are no rules, there are no laws. It's not like Newton's law of gravity. If it applies here, then it applies, in the far, far galaxy away too. What we can talk about is just guidelines, just general principles, and these principles sometimes oppose each other. For example, you have to scale on one side, but when you are scaling, you also have to manage cost. But of course, these are opposing forces. When you are scaling, your cost goes up. To answer the question, my co-founder Devesh, we were having a conversation on the terrace one day, and an insight kind of came up. We said, what we are solving for today will become tomorrow's problems. आज जो हम solve कर रहे हैं वो कल की problems होंगी. And I think the realization really was that it's not that you have to you don't have to get the best answer. You have to get an answer. You need to be able, progress is more important than progress. And be assured that today's solutions will definitely become tomorrow's problem. And if you internalize that fact, then you will stop procrastinating. You will stop worrying about, do I have the right solution? The point, it is iterative. You know, whatever you solve for, it will become a problem. You believe that scale will happen one day. And when you start believing that scale will happen one day, you will start coming with solutions that will work for that. How many of you have been to Gurgaon? You guys have seen Gurgaon. Okay, so the interesting thing about Gurgaon is that the city designers never imagined that Gurgaon will scale. So the answer really is that because you don't imagine, you come up with stupid solutions. But if somebody would have told them 15 years ago that, dude, one day this will be the Silicon Valley of India. By the way, 3 of the people who are here, they all are within 50 meters of where we are. You know, it's a Silicon Valley. Dhaiya is right across from me, just right across. From my room, I see Dhaiya's office. Delivery is right behind us. Lime Road is not here, but that's a Silicon Valley. The point is, you have not imagined that that city will explode, and hence you make decisions that don't scale. So I would just recommend or just suggest, keep scale in mind. Believe that one day millions of people will use your product, and when you start thinking in those terms, it gives you a strange kind of power, if you will, to make decisions. And I think product, technology, operations, they all start falling in place. If I had to sign up 5 merchants, then I would have sent them a memorandum of understanding, and they would sign and they will post it back to me. But when we believe that we will have millions of merchants signing up, of course that's not going to work. So your solutions become very different. And I think that's how we.
One of the most important things that a lot of people talk to us about, and you mentioned it in our introduction as well, unicorn, right? The day we became a unicorn, it is exciting to have $1 billion valuation. But I think it's very important for us to remember that valuation is really just a point in time, and you have to create value and not just run after valuation. When we started, and many times in between as well, we've had points where we had to raise money and we were out of money completely, and we had to raise money at whatever valuation we would get at that time. The valuation of the company at that time, and multiple times that has happened, has not been a reflection of the health and the success of the business. It's unfortunately been a reflection of of macro factors in the industry. I think as an entrepreneur, if you have full conviction and you believe in your idea, and I think believe in the team more than just the idea, I think one of the entrepreneurs said that as well, I completely agree with that, valuation will follow. So for a lot of late stage, mid stage people, we are always worried about कि मैंने कम value पे पैसे raise कर लिए. That is not a problem. मैंने बहुत ज़्यादा value पे पैसे raise कर लिए. As we are all seeing, that is a problem. So valuation is not something that we should or anybody in the late stage should be running behind. So I think that is very, very critical. Another thing that I will talk about, because it's very, very close to my heart, is really building the culture of an organization. And actually, I'll quote Sanjay because he's sitting right here. He talks about the fact that building an organization is not a 3 to 4 year process. Building a good, strong organization takes more than 10 years. And when your business crosses a certain level, when your startup crosses a certain level, it is very important to keep the startup DNA, but also important to start behaving or thinking like an organization and build the culture in an organization. And how do you really build culture? Culture is really built by the stories we tell, the actions we take, the heroes we hold high. how do we act in the organization? And the fact is that as entrepreneurs, you move beyond just doing functional activities to being, and this is really tough, being a role model, where everyone is looking up to you, that if this person screams and shouts in the office and gets things done, you can expect the junior most person doing that as well. So at some point, you need to start thinking beyond just what has worked for you in the first couple of years and start thinking about behavior, action, stories, tasks that will be emulated by people down the stream as well. We are about 1,050 people, and we are very proud of that, because the business that we are running is a very heavy business. It's an intense business, but we are running it in a very lean manner. That means that each employee that we have has to give us the output of 3 to 4 people if compared to the fact that if they're working in another organization. And that can only come if each one of them feels like an entrepreneur. And I think that part, building that culture, is time consuming and really gives me sleepless nights. I think capital, the fact that you're not just building the organization for valuation, and second is the culture of the organization.
I think this was in one of your slides also. I think we completely agree with that. I think probably Dhaya was saying that, which is the organization morphs. It becomes, it reinvents itself. When you are doing, imagine when we started ShopClues, we had a room 1/4 the size of this room, and everything that had to be done was communicated. We're just sitting right there. It was very different, very easy. Culture was straightforward. I think we were doing, we were customer support, we were operations, we were packers, we were pickers, we were coders, we were quality, marketing, every function was available there. So imagine a 15 people, 15 people team is everything. Now scale that 15 people team to 1,050 people, 1,200 people, and suddenly you will see that every individual from that 15 team becomes a department. And that department has like 20 people, 20, 30 people, some 50 people, sometimes even 100 people, right? So it is sometimes very odd, and it happens very quickly. 5 years is not a very long time. It feels like a long time, but still it's not a very long time. In 5 years you'll see so order management, which was one of the 25 things I would do in a day, is now a department in itself. There are 75 people who actually work in the department. So it changes. What changes is, and I think somebody mentioned here that, I think Dhaya said that, that you have to evolve. There are certain early employees that are no longer of the right mindset to take you to the next level, or they're probably, either the organization has moved far from them, or they have moved away from the organization, or all these things happen. I think, but the most important thing for all entrepreneurs who are sitting here is that you have to look in the mirror yourself every day. Are you the right leader? Are you the right late stage leader which this organization needs? And you have to be honest about it. You might not be. And there's no shame in it. When you realize that you are not that guy, there are many reasons, right? You love chaos. You love the action. आपने 12 बजे तक लगे हुए हैं, कुछ भी फिक्र नहीं, फोन कर दिया, ये कर देना, वो कर देना, वहाँ कर देना, ये कर देना. But imagine you are 2,000 people. You can't do the same thing anymore. You need structure, which either will liberate you or will stagnate you. You have to decide who you are, and once you figure it out, you can't come in between the organization goals and what you want to do. They have to be either aligned, or you have to step in. So just keep the pulse of the organization very close to you. Be honest about yourself. And I think the comfort that you can create, it is hard. It's not very easy for everyone to feel that way, but you will not be the expert of everything. You will realize, at a certain point that you don't know everything. There's no way you would know everything. You have to start relying on people, trusting them to deliver. It's a very uncannily odd position to be in, but you have to get used to the fact that if you are the smartest person sitting in the room, then we have a problem. You should not be the smartest person, then you are not using your money right. And I think getting used to that fact, it doesn't come easy. I can tell you, I struggle a lot with that. But then try to remind myself that if I know more than this guy, then there's a problem. I shouldn't. He should know more about this than I need to know, because now we're looking at experts. That one department needs an expert. It actually needs a world-class expert. I think those are the challenges that you start seeing in late stage.
Should you pivot? Should you not pivot?
Again, there are no laws here. I think only guidelines. You have to be flexible enough and rigid too at the same time. I don't know. Your passion is very important. I think that's the driving force. That is the fuel by which your organization moves forward. That is the fuel by which people whom you lead will actually get their energy. They will emulate you. They will look at you. They will decide how much they will give to the organization. So keep changing your point of view or ideas every day would be a problem, I think. But at the same time, you have to realize that you have to be honest. If it is not working, then it is important for you to realize that it is not just about you, but an organization. There are, depending on the size of the organization, there could be 15 people, 100 people, 200 people, 1,000 people, and you have to make sure that you are doing the right thing for them as well as for yourself, and most importantly for the organization. So yes, if pivot is the answer, then pivot you shall.
Many times I also think that things that work in year 1, year 2 do not work in year 3, year 4. And as entrepreneurs, I know that I have that feeling that, I love social media as a channel of customer acquisition. And it worked beautifully for us in year 1. And I continue to want to use that for acquisition in year 4, year 5. I don't run marketing anymore. And my marketing team keeps trying to tell me that it is not the most efficient way. And I'm just like, क्यों पर हमारे लिए इतना अच्छा काम करता था अभी क्यों नहीं काम करता है I think those are just mental blocks that you have to get over. Firstly, you have people much smarter than you who are running marketing. Thanks, Sanjay. And the fact that times have changed, the life cycle of the company has changed as well. I think all of those are really, really critical things to keep in mind.
Should I do entrepreneurship after I do a job, or should I get into entrepreneurship now?
So he's heard this story many times, so he just wants me to tell it one more time. So that's what it is.
I want you guys to hear
So for those of you who are looking at investment banking as a career, you know that at least about 15 years ago, they used to have the whole concept of a super Friday or a super Saturday. So when you want to get into investment banking, which is what I wanted to do extremely passionately. I went to business school as I have to do investment banking. And the first year in the US, and you want to do investment banking, किसके साथ काम करना है? Goldman के साथ काम करना है. Or मतलब, why would I settle for anything less than that? So I go to the first investment banking club meeting, and I walk in, and I'm going to do a bit of stereotyping here, guys, but I'm sorry, but it really holds true. There were about 20 guys there, 20 white men, and all of them, their last names ended with Greenberg and Adamberg, and all Jewish white men, completely. And all of them were also not very tall. And so I walk in, and they're like, you're in the wrong room. Marketing is next room. I'm like, no, I'm not here for marketing. I'm here for the investment banking club. They're like, okay, sit down. Have you ever worked in investment banking? I'm like, no. Have you guys ever worked in investment banking? They're like, yeah, I was an analyst. Half of them had never worked in investment banking, though. But just the fact that you're an Indian girl sitting there and you want to do investment banking and not do technology in investment banking, or it was an anomaly in itself. And so I do land up getting through the first round of interviews, and I land up in New York for the Super Friday, which is about 10 interviews back to back throughout the day. And again, I walk in, and there are just like 60 white men, all from Ivy League schools, and there are 2 women standing on the side, and they're blonde, and they're talking about their weekends in the yacht in Boston, and then there's me. So I'm like, okay, how do I what is my source of power? So I stand up, and for those of you who've seen me, I'm tall, and I was wearing 3-inch heels. So I stand up, and I'm like, I'm the tallest in the room. I cleared it. I got into Goldman, but I think you need that one thing that you have to. In this case, it was pretty shallow, but it was just that one thing you have to hold on to. And why this is relevant is that at Shop Clues, we've kind of used that ethos too, that every day, and Sanjay said it right in the beginning, every day has to be better than the previous. Every month has to be better than the previous one. But this won't happen consistently, guys. We're in our 6th year of existence. But there has to be one or the other metric that has to be celebrated every month. And that keeps the team morale up. So whether you're doing that in your personal life, whether you're doing that in running a company, one metric. At some time, it can be as shallow as your height being better than everybody else. At other times, it is that your unit economics are much better than others. I think that's part of what's kept us going through. Shop Clues is slated to be profitable in the coming financial year, but we see Flipkart and Amazon targeting the middle income segment. Which is your point of differentiation, is that a sign of worry as the competition will increase?
Whose question is this? Okay.
Investor, okay?
So no, it's a very good question, and I will use the chalk in a bit. I'm dying to answer this question. Let me try to answer it this way. Oyo rooms, pata hai हमें Sheratons भी पता है. Sheratons are 5-star chains and Oyo rooms. Both are hotels, both have rooms, both have catering service, both have this, both have that. They're very similar businesses. But do you think an Oyo room is run same way as Sheraton? Can it be run the same way? Can you take the team of Sheraton and operate an Oyo room? Can you do vice versa? Take an Oyo room and run a Sheraton? Okay, so you get the idea. So now let's imagine something very similar in the e-commerce world. There are many points of differentiation. First is, I think, the just simple fallacy, and I'll tell you also the origin of the fallacy. The origin of the fallacy is that in an e-commerce world, especially in structured categories, there's this law of monopoly. Sometimes you also say law of duopoly. It comes from the fact that I think the points are very right. I think the terms used are right. Network effects, all of those words, buzzwords are all in the right place. But I think it doesn't come together nicely. The reason is that when you're talking about structured categories, when you talk about iPhones, for example, and just for the team here, a structured category is a category where there is a standard catalog or typically large brands are operating. A good example of structured category would be an iPhone. A bad example of a structured category would be a used iPhone. Suddenly, if you have a used iPhone, it is very hard to find the price of this iPhone. But if it is a new iPhone, it is very easy. It is well established. An iPhone 7, your iPhone 7, my iPhone 7, सब एक से ही है जो सस्ता बेचेगा उससे ले लूँगा, right? So what happens is that when you have a structured category, and it can happen not only in electronics, it can happen in fashion, it can happen in home, kitchen, all of those places. When you are in a structured category, it is very easy to get into a pricing battle. Who is selling the cheapest? Who has the highest discount? And the only way to make money in that category then is to become very large and become a monopoly. And if you don't become a monopoly, you will not be able to establish or set prices. And if you can't set prices, you will bleed. So whoever bleeds out is out of the equation, and the last man is standing. Typically that's how monopolies happen. But when we get into unstructured categories, it is a very different dynamics. The business is built very differently. Like a Oyo room will be built differently than a Sheraton. So shop clues has to make money at. अब मैं chalk use करूँगा ही आज लाओ जरा. So if I were to draw a graph, कुछ ऐसा दिखेगा. This is positive areas of contribution. That means you are making money. These are negative areas of this. This is less than 300 rupees. This is less than 500 rupees but greater than 300 rupees. This is less than 1000 and this is greater than 2000. I don't know whether the sign is right or not, but this is greater than 2000. And your price points are greater than 2000, then your organization is, if it is optimized to make money in this segment, then generally it is inefficient to make money in this segment. And that is the DNA of an organization. Like Oyo rooms or Sheraton example, I think काफी relevant है. And that is, so what I'm trying to say is that for shop clues, it is very important that our target audience has to be very well identified. It is the Bharat. And when I say Bharat, you're talking about low price points. So what happens is when people ask this question that, भाई वो भी तो चूरन बेच रहे हैं, ठीक है भाई, आप अगर जिस दिन आपकी रोजी रोटी चूरन बेचने से चलेगी, उस दिन you become my competition. You see what I'm trying to say? Because you have also sell churran every once in a while, that doesn't make your business model work, because your gross margins are very negative in this segment. For your gross margins to be positive in that segment, the organization has to be built differently, it has to be run differently, it has to be created differently. So yes, every once in a while we will also sell an iPhone to people, what Radhika calls them as 3Ms, male, metropolitan men buying mobile phones, 3Ms. कभी-कभी हम उनको भी बेचते हैं, but that is not the core of our business. Our business is not built for that. Our business is built for Bharat. Bharat means you're talking about low price points, selection-based organization, built to make money at low price points, which means that how we market, the experience that we deliver will be very different from the experience that you will get somewhere else. But those things will always be fundamentally different. एक organization अगर scale कर गई, if their organization scales to Bharat, either they will have to build it differently or it will make a huge amount of losses forever. Have I answered your question? ये तो बहुत सिंपल सा है जो बहुत पॉपुलर है. आप उपले समझते हो? कंडे, उपले तो नहीं मिलेंगे आपको अमेजोन पे, शॉपक्लू से मिलते हैं. Yeah. So his question is, how do you manage the price point? How do you actually get this area this is shop clues, and this is not shop clues. So the question is how you do it. So I'll explain that also. So basically, simple सी बात है. If you have to make money at 300 rupees, then you know that it inherently has to be a high gross margin category. For example, when you sell an iPhone is 2%.
Most of the time negative.
हाँ, मतलब एक मर्चेंट के लिए 2% ग्रॉस मार्जिन होता है, whereas when you sell it as a marketplace, you will most likely be a negative contribution margin category, right? But when you are selling this duster, इसका क्या प्राइस होना चाहिए? नहीं, आप थोड़ा गेस मारो. हाँ, तो अगर मैं 120 पर बेचूंगा तो आप लोगे? 90 रुपीज़ में लोगे, 90 में लोगे ना, हो सकता है कि इसका कॉस्ट सिर्फ 15 रुपये हो उसके लिए, फैक्ट है ये, राइट? क्योंकि दिस इज वेरी हार्ड टू डिस्कवर व्हेन यू आर ऑपरेटिंग दीज कैटेगरीज, देन द SKUs that you sell will not be like iPhones and Samsungs. Your SKUs will be, यहाँ पे 300 रुपये की शर्ट्स मिलती हैं, ये 300 रुपये की शर्ट है, ये 1200 रुपये की रेंज है। जैसे दुकान पे आप जाते हो, बाजार में जाते हो, कि भाई 200 रुपये की शर्ट दिखाना, दैट इज वन वे ऑफ आस्किंग क्वेश्चन। अदर वे इज यू आर सेइंग आई वांट टू बाय अ प्रेशर कुकर, मुझे एक 5 लीटर का प्रेशर कुकर चाहिए, बट मेरे पास 800 रुपये का बजट है मेरा। तब क्या होगा, दुकानदार कहेगा कि सर आप ना ये वाला देखो, ये पिजन का प्रेशर कुकर है, ये अच्छा है। या आप ये कह सकते हो कि भाई मेरे को 5 लीटर का प्रेस्टीज का प्रेशर कुकर दिखाना। दैट्स अ डिफरेंट क्वेश्चन दैट यू आर आस्किंग। सो इमेजिन द कस्टमर हु इज एक्चुअली गोइंग टू बाय, I have 800 rupees and I want to buy a 5-liter pressure cooker. That is a shop close customer. That he's not asking, I want to buy the cheapest prestige pressure cooker. So then what happens is that you have to create a marketplace which is a selection based price point marketplace. कि भाई 800 रुपये के कितने प्रेशर कुकर हैं, कितनी रेंज है आपके पास. Then you will get brands that you have not even heard of. But there the problem is the shopclose has to stand as the trust creator for you, because a consumer is going to buy an unknown brand from an unknown seller. The only person he or she can trust is the platform. So we have to be there for them all the time. And then of course, last but not least, you have to create this selection in a regional manner. Like Chennai के selections जो है pressure cooker के और shirts के, sarees के have to be different from Delhi's selection, because they have to be locally or regionally procured and regionally delivered. The way you think of logistics is very different. You know, only 20% of our shipments go via air shipping. They don't need to. And secondly, we can't afford to. Anybody from Delhi? Okay, 2-3 लोग हैं, आप ही हैं। आपसे पूछता हूँ, दिल्ली में टॉप 5-6 स्कूल्स के नाम बताना। 1, 2, आप दोनों मिलके बता दो। श्री राम 3, 5, 4, 10 के बाद आप लोग की हालत टाइट होने लग जाएगी। वहां पे 300 से ऊपर स्कूल्स हैं। वो कहाँ है, वो कौन लोग हैं, किधर पढ़ते हैं, कहाँ रहते हैं, इनविजिबल है वो हमारे लिए। प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि वो जो हिंदुस्तान का जो कंज्यूमर जो है, जो डिफरेंशिएशन की हम लोग बात करें, तो हिंदुस्तान का कंज्यूमर है वो सिर्फ हमें मेट्रोपॉलिटन कंज्यूमर ही दिखाई देता है। बाकी भारत तो इनविजिबल है हमारे लिए, वो एग्जिस्ट ही नहीं करता है। द क्वेश्चन इज एंड द अपॉर्चुनिटी इज टू फाइंड, टू ओपन योर आईज टू दैट कंज्यूमर, acknowledge their presence and solve for them. That is the opportunity for this class.
Hi, Preetham. Can e-commerce business models be successful without VC funding?
E-commerce businesses will only be successful without VC funding.
We have a contrarian point of view.
And I'll try to explain that also for a bit. See, an agenda of an entrepreneur sometimes is very different from agenda of a venture capitalist. They are very different people. They have different points of view. They are trying to solve different things. Sometimes, not all the time, and definitely not our VCs, other VCs. They're also powered by greed. You're recording that. I know, that's why I said other ones, not ours, other ones. They can also be powered by greed of sorts, right? The agenda of a venture capitalist. See, here's the thing. If you have to raise money, venture capitalist money is the most expensive money that you can raise. If a bank would give you a loan, take a loan. It's just easy, just do it. But unfortunately, banks will not give you a loan. Banks don't give a loan on a PowerPoint presentation and an idea that you have in your mind. A venture capitalist would. So I would say e-commerce businesses are not built on VC money, should not be built on VC money. They should be built on your passion and what you're trying to do. Yes, it needs capital, and I think that capital will come from venture capitalists. But I think it is also very important to understand what your appetite is, because it is a fact that most people die because of indigestion, not because of starvation. And it's a very important difference to remember. And what happens is, the greed will ask you to scale. Scale karo bhai, scale karo. Dhanda kitna बढ़ रहा है? But actually what is scaling is losses. What you are scaling is actually showing everybody that I can scale losses. I can go from minus 100 crores to minus 1,000 crores to minus 5,000 crores. That is the scale you're talking about. But that is not what the intention is for a business. The business has to scale to make money. But to scale to make money, it requires time. It is an organization. It is a living entity. It needs the time to get the kinks right, to get the processes right, to get the unit economics right. And once you get all of this right, then you scale. But problem what happens with VC money sometimes is that VC money forces you to do certain things for which the organization and or the entrepreneur is not ready.
This was that, is there space for all the existing players in the e-commerce industry going ahead, or is there need for consolidation? So question one is that US में भी इतना ज़्यादा penetration नहीं है, 8.5, 10% है. Where will it go in India? And will there be multiple players? So what will the industry look like in the future?
So I'll take a stab at it, and then Radhika, you can add to it. Actually, India will see much larger penetration than US. The problem with US is that where you live in the US, within 10 kilometers, 10 minutes, 10 minutes of your driving distance, you can get any model of television, mobile phone, food, groceries, everything is available. Within 10 minutes of your driving distance, अगर तुम्हें पानी भी मिल जाए हिंदुस्तान में हर जगह तो बहुत बड़ी बात है, राइट? तो पहली बात यह है कि इन द यूएस ई-कॉमर्स इज ऑलवेज बीन अ कन्वीनियंस. इट्स अ लग्जरी. यार कौन जाएगा बाहर, मिलता सब कुछ है लेकिन अभी कौन जाएगा, लेट घर पे आ जाए, अच्छा है. Not to say that that mindset is not there in India, but in India the problem is very different. India, the offline infrastructure is not getting built as fast, as quickly as the online infrastructure. In India, the only way commerce, so to speak, will happen, and maybe not, let me not say only way, only is not, but a very significant portion of commerce will be driven by availability. There is no other way to get it.